Yeah, 8:54 AM on this Friday mornings. I keep going to say Thursday because you're here, Ger, but it's Friday mornings, OTB AM. Time to say a very good morning to the 1997 World Snooker Champion, Ken Doherty. Morning, Ken.
Morning, lads. How are you?
Keeping well. We will get to the Masters preview because Ali Pali has had to quickly turn from the darts to the snooker for this Sunday, but I did want to touch on the Chinese corruption and match fixing story, which has kind of developed again from this week. So the snooker governing body on Tuesday suspending 2 more Chinese players investigating this alleged match fixing and betting scandal, Zhao Jintong being one of them, which is the big name, and he's had to pull out of the Masters, or turfed out of the Masters essentially, replaced by Hossein Vafai. This is a story that is putting a bit of a stain on the sport at the moment, Ken.
Yeah, it is. It's I'm shocked and saddened at the same time, to be honest. You know, Zhao Jintong, UK champion, former UK champion, won the UK last year, or the year before last in the German Masters, a very prodigious talent. And of course, Yan Bingtao, who won the Masters only a couple of years ago. They're the 2 of the highest ranked players that have been suspended, have been sort of embroiled in this sort of match fixing or match betting controversy. And along with 8 other players, the Yang Wenbo is already retired. I think he was the most prolific of them all. But he's gone as well. And it's just, it's marred the sport. But the good thing is that, you know, that it'll be a lesson to anybody who thinks that they can sort of bet or match fix in our sport and try and get away with it. You know, at least they've been caught and the punishments will be handed out in due course, and I'm sure severe punishments at that.
There have been high-profile incidents over the years, Stephen Lee being one that comes to mind, and like the punishments have been meted out. But when you say lessons have been learned, I guess from that perspective, it hasn't been learned at this point.
Well, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I totally agree. I thought, you know, with the severe 12-year ban at Stephen Lee, that would have frightened anybody off. But obviously, I mean, these are young lads coming into sport. Those 2 high-profile, the Yang Wenbo as well, and then there's another 7 after that. And some of them are very, very young, very vulnerable, but probably not educated, and probably the rules of our game and the possible suspensions and fines and bans that they could face just by betting, not even match fixing, but just by betting alone. It's not allowed. It's totally illegal in our sport. We're monitored by Sport Radar. We have our own sport integrity unit. You know, you thought after the Stephen Lee incident that nobody else would dare do it, but obviously they have, and they've been caught. And it was actually one of the younger lads who was sort of coerced into doing it, that he was the whistleblower, and it sort of unravelled this whole sort of system between these 10 Chinese players. Which
in a way is good, right? Like in many sports, when this happens, a lot of sports are like, oh, it's just a few bad apples. But actually, having an open conversation and being openly disgusted by it is the only way for this to work out. Is this something that has always been around though, Ken? Like, were you ever approached at any stage when you were playing, or did it never? It didn't happen like that, did it?
No, not at all. You know, I mean, you hear stories. I mean, there's obviously. I mean, back even when I was playing, we were allowed sort of bet against, like if we had a high break. I remember once I had a high break in my first year. I think it was in the Mercantile Credit Classic, and it was 126. It was against Eddie Charlton, and I was allowed back against it in case it got beat as a sort of a saver. And believe it or not, the 126 stayed for the whole week, and I lost both sides. So, but those days, that was typical. But those days you could do it. But then, of course, you know, the bans of betting and of course, particularly match fixing was always banned. But you know, you were allowed to sort of have savers years and years ago. But that was turfed out many years ago. But since then, no, I've never been approached. But obviously, it's been going on behind the scenes, and but you know, as you said, that the highlight, the good thing is that it's been highlighted and they've been caught, and you know, it's the only way to sort of deal with this is to hand down severe bans, you know, to those who are the perpetrators, you know.
And was there ever a sense that this might be going on at like the lower ranking tournaments when, you know, back in the day, or had it always kind of just been a sense that actually, you know what, it's not really worth it?
I don't know. You see, because it's monitored as well, it's very, very difficult to get the money on. Now, because these are Chinese, there may be lots of money going on in the Chinese markets that are hard. But even with Sport Radar, They're monitored now. So, but years and years ago, that wouldn't have been the case. So there probably was like stuff in all sports. I think you see some of the Premiership footballers. You see it in tennis and golf and lots of other sports that it's happened.
College basketball, like that was the kind of
America,
exactly. The point shaving stuff.
Yeah.
And the cricket,
even the Hansi Cronje incident in the cricket. Yeah. So it's been going on in a lot of sports, and particularly because of the betting companies and all the little different markets that they have as well. But yeah, it's been going on in all sports. But thankfully, that we've found, in our sport, that we've found the guilty parties and we've dealt with them, as I said, severely. And I'm sure, this is a very sad time for snooker, and particularly for, because these young lads, they've come over from China, dedicated their lives to snooker. And particularly the likes of Yan Mingtao and Zhao Zhutong, who sort of got into the top 16, are very, very successful, and sort of the flag bearers now for Chinese snooker. They will be marred with this for the rest of their careers, and could possibly have thrown their careers away because of it, and it's just it is very, very sad in a way,
It's crazy because when you watch some of the videos of these frames where match fixing is alleged to have occurred, and sometimes it can be a case of, a player winning 4-1 instead of winning 4-0. It can be very subtle, but sometimes it's a player missing a shot by millimetres, in the jaws of the pocket, or just going out of position ever so slightly. But it strikes me that snooker players are so talented and so precise nowadays that you could on purpose miss a shot or put yourself out of position by even the slightest of margins.
Yeah, you could do, but if it's been highlighted by our integrity unit that there has been suspicious betting patterns on a particular match, I would be able to see. I would be able to know, no matter how good they are, of the way and the manner in which they're playing, that whether it's dodgy or not, and you can't hide from that,
It strikes me that when you look at all of the winners of the World Snooker Championship have come from the UK. Neil Robertson, of course, as well from Australia, but snooker in China.
There was one from Ireland as well.
Sorry, of course, yeah. Well, notwithstanding, of course, the most important one. But if you look at the game in China and how it's risen, and it's clearly been on an upward curve over the last number of years, thanks to the likes of Zhao Jintong and Yan Bingtao. But
Ding Chunhui as well.
Of course. But what like you felt like a Chinese winner of the World Snooker Championship was only around the corner, but this could set the game back in China decades.
Yes, it could do. Yeah, and particularly, these two guys, the likes of Zhao Jintong and the likes of Yan Mingtao, these were two of the more likely guys to actually win the World Championship at some stage. Very talented players, very different sort of characters. But yeah, they had the potential to go on and win the World Championship. And it will set it back a little bit. But I think, like all things, the game is bigger than individuals, and the game will always survive. And there are lots of great players, in the Masters this week and on the tour as well, that will keep attracting, the spectator. You see the Masters is almost completely sold out every session. So it hasn't taken away from the popularity of the sport. There are some bad elements in the sport, in every sport, but they will be found, and they'll be found guilty and dealt with severely, as I said,
When you look at the Masters then, kicking off this Sunday, Ken in Ali Pali, you mentioned Mark Allen is someone who has been in prodigious form, winning the Northern Ireland Open, and then a brilliant comeback win against Ding Chunhui back in November in the UK Championship final. Banging form, and he could really do it. He's already won the Masters before. Yeah,
absolutely. I think he's full of confidence. He's different Mark Allen this year. He's lost 5 stone during the summer. He feels great. He's playing, very, very freely. He won the Northern Ireland, as you said, the UK. So he's coming into this as the man in form, and I think he's the man to beat. Himself, and obviously Ronnie O'Sullivan, who's won it 7 times. It's a tournament that Ronnie O'Sullivan, it's in his back door. He gets himself up for it every year. He only has to win 4 matches to win it. So it suits him. But I think Mark Allen will be his biggest threat this week,
Ronnie, as someone who can be in the mood for a tournament and not in the mood for a tournament, he of course enjoys the media work as well whenever he gets knocked out. But as you said, the format suits him perfectly because he doesn't have to concentrate over a 17-day period like at the Crucible. It's quick fire.
Yeah, it's quick fire. He only lives half an hour, 40 minutes away as well. That suits him as well. And he's won it 7 times. I think he's been beaten 3 or 4 finals as well. You know, he has an incredible record over his 30-year career. And he just keeps going on and breaking records. You know, he's the most wonderful talent that a game has ever seen. It's great that he can still play. You know, he's 47 now. I think might be even gone to 48, and he's still at the top of the tree. He's number 1 in the world, and it's just magnificent. You know,
like Alexander Palace, in terms of the snooker, normally when people watch snooker and tune in, they see the very quiet, respectful crowds. But in Ali Pali for the Masters, it's the one occasion where the crowd lets loose a little bit, and Ronnie's certainly, as you said, the home favourite.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's 2,000. Can hold 2,000 seats now. It was 1,000 when we went to Ali Pali first. They increased to the 500 because of the demand. Now it's up to 2,000. And the atmosphere is just electric. I mean, we saw it last year, the reception of all the players that came in, and particularly that match, Higgins and Williams, you know, where they both got a standing ovation for the final frame. I mean, I was in the commentary box, the hairs in the back of my neck were standing up just watching it. You know, it was quite incredible. We thought we'd never see the likes of when it was in the conference centre years ago, but it moved to Wembley Arena and now into Ali Pali, where it's really sort of has its own home now. It's a wonderful, wonderful tournament, and there'll be a great atmosphere. I can't wait for it to start tomorrow. Mark
Williams is someone who I know he's been in Ireland doing exhibitions this week as well, but someone will be heavily fancied. You know, Neil Robertson being mentioned. Williams, I think, has David Gilbert up first, who's been a late call up because of the Chinese match fixing. So you expect him to go far as well.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's one of those tournaments. I mean, the opening match is Neil Roberts against Sean Murphy, who they played in a couple of finals together. So, I mean, most of the matches in the first round, you could almost grace as like some finals, like, you know. There's some great matchups. Higgins against Lazowski is a great matchup as well. But Mark Williams is, he's one of the guys, the class of '92, that could go a long way in this tournament. Neil Robertson is defending champion against Sean Murphy, as I said in the opener. That's going to be a great start. And, of course, Selby in the evening time as well. Any one of those. Selby in a bit of form as well, has come back, won the English Open just before Christmas. You know, he's had his problems off the table, sort of mental health issues. It's great to see him play and back to his best as well. So, I'm looking forward to a great week of snooker and some great matches, and hopefully we'll get a couple of the big hitters in the final and have a great final on Sunday week.
Ken, with all the Owl lads making a comeback, are you getting... What's going on?
Dust the cobwebs off the queue chair.
Yeah, are you...
I'm still playing. I've actually got myself and Jimmy White. I've got a qualifier. Jordan the Masters actually up in Barnsley, so we'll have to make a little road trip together up to Barnsley, play in the Welsh Open qualifiers, and then back down. So, but yeah, I'm still enjoying it along with Jimmy, and I don't think Stephen has enjoyed it as much. He hasn't played anything this season yet, but we're still enjoying it, and we love our sport, you know, and things like this that has marred the sport a little bit really sort of offend us in a way. You know, they hurt us and they sadden us as well, you know, and let's hope that we can get this controversy behind us and you know, and deal with it very, very efficiently, you know, and as quickly as possible.
You were hanging out with Jimmy in Cork during the week. He's obviously a calmer individual now than he was when...
Just a little bit,
a little bit, yeah. But he still loves Ireland. He loves his pints of Guinness still, and when he's back in Ireland, and a little bit calmer, but he's still, you know, like a cat in a hot tin roof at times. Believe me, but great character, lovely guy, and has been very, very good to me over the years. You know, as a really good friend, and has helped me quite a lot. And I love him. He's a great character, and great to see him at the ripe old age of 60, still playing and still competing and still loving it. I hope I still have the same love as him, and I'm sure I will when I get to that age.
Well, you brought up Sean Murphy there, Ken, and I know you spend a lot of time in the golf course at the moment. We've been kind of having a discussion with a number of people on the show recently about which is the more difficult, the 147, the 9-darter, or the hole-in-one. Sean Murphy, of course, making the claim that he's done all three. Now we've had George Noble and Glenn Durrant on the show in the last week or two.
You keep throwing shade on his claim that he's done all three. I haven't seen you do that to his face, mind you.
Yeah. No, George Noble and Glenn Durrant calling his claim into question a little bit. But which is the toughest, in your opinion, Ken?
Well, looking, I mean, I played golf. I've never had a hole-in-one, but I think that's lucky in a lot of respect, particularly for amateurs, you know, because I played with guys that have had hole-in-ones, and listen, it's probably the only best shot that they've ever played in their life, you know. the ninth darter is incredible. Yeah, I saw some during the World Championship, which was fantastic the last week. But it's only 9 darts. We have to play 36 shots for a 147. So I'll leave it at that.
That's your answer.
Simple maths, yeah.
That's my simple maths. Yeah.
The last one for me then is Eric Ten Hag, the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say that. But he certainly he's done an amazing job, and the United fans are getting excited. We could still deal with a couple of players for sure. But at the moment, the Reds are back, Ger. The Reds are back.
There you go.
Bring on City.
I knew you'd be happy about it. Keno, great to have you with us. Thanks a million.
Yeah, you too. Take care, guys. Have a great new year.
Cheers, Ken.